Okay guys, here's if statements part 2. I have one more example to show you. And I'm going to create a new file called if statements3.py. This is part 2 of the video, and we're going to do our third example here. So if statements 3. If statements3.py. It's still Friday, so I'm going to be shaky. Show the user a 3-option menu. So, and I'll just give you the background here. Nowadays, when you go to a website or an app, it's usually buttons and you just click on them and get your thing. Notice that we're not programming for a touch screen yet, and we're not programming for a mouse yet. So we only can type from the keyboard. So when you have a keyboard menu, some of you might be working at a part-time job where you have to use an interface that's just like a console. I know Canadian Tire used to have this up until probably about 10 years ago. You guys are too old for that, young for that now. But when you went to Canadian Tire, you could look a product up, but you'd have to actually type in what it was. And I think that was only available for people that worked there. And yes, I did work at Canadian Tire when I was before I graduated school. Okay, so that's how I know that. So here's our menu, and this is what a menu would look like. And this was used in many different systems, even a PC before Windows was popular. So main menu, it would just say main menu. If you log into a server, you might see something similar as well. I'm just going to make it look nice. So that's just like a line, print 1 red. So I'm going to give the user a few options, just some different colors. Okay, 3 green, and then I'm going to say print 4 exit. Okay, so let's use a while loop. Let's use if statements, because that's what we're talking about, to determine if the user wants red, green, or blue, or maybe exit. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to say choice equals. And please, when you're developing menus like this, I'm going to recommend that you ask the user for a number, a single digit. It's so much easier than asking them to type in red, because if you ask them to type in red, they might use a capital R, they might use a lowercase r. If it's something more complicated, they might misspell it and then it won't work. But if you just say, well, 1 is red, 2 is blue, 3 is green, they just have to type in 1 digit and press enter, and it just simplifies things so much. Because remember, it is case sensitive. So let's try to stay away from words when we do our assignments. Unless in some situations it does make sense to ask them for a word, but when it's a menu like this, I think numbers are superior. You could also do letters, just a single letter, but make sure the letters are all unique, for like R, B, and G, red, blue, and green. Anyway, here's your input statement. Input, and again, you're going to have int around it because it is going to be an integer input. And I'm just going to put a question mark there. So let's see what this looks like when I run it. So when I run it, there's my menu. I have a question mark, and I can press in the selection. Nothing happens yet. So let's make something happen and give our program some behavior with if statements. So we're going to say if choice, and here's where we'll be using the 2 equal signs. And because it's an integer, you don't put quotes around the 1. It's just 1. So in this case, I'll say print, just this random thing, red cars pay higher insurance. And apparently this is true. If you have a red sports car, it's higher insurance than a silver sports car, for example, just because of demographics and stats. And interesting, Mr. Malky will tell you that in the auto shop. Okay, else if choice is equal to 2, print, so this is if they typed blue, the sky is not really blue. So I'm just putting some random messages depending on what they select. Else if choice equals 3, print healthy grass is green, apparently. So unless it's in the middle of a drought, well, I guess then it's not healthy. And then so that's your if statements and else if statements. Now with exit, why would we have an exit? An exit doesn't make any sense unless we have a loop. I'm going to run this program right now. So if I type in 1 for red, it says red cars pay higher insurance. What happens if I type in a letter, like F, for example? I get an error because it's expecting an integer. That's something to keep in mind If it's expecting an integer and you type in something other than an integer, you'll get an error. If I type in 4 for exit, nothing happens because we haven't programmed that in. But it always ends. Now, for those of you, we are going to have an assignment where I'm going to ask you to do a menu. And remember that having a menu that loops around is probably superior to a menu that just breaks. So I'm going to put a while loop here. I'm going to put a while loop. While the while loop is going to say while choice does not equal to, and this is something new for you, exclamation mark equals is the not equal to. And I'll try to summarize this all in a document. I will and put it online. If choice does not equal to 4, colon. Now, if I press enter, it's tabbing it in. Everything inside of the while loop has to be tabbed in. That means all the code that we've written below the while loop, we want that inside of the while loop. We do. We want to continue to ask them what choice is and continue to respond appropriately. So I'm going to highlight with my mouse or trackpad all 12, line 12 all the way down. And after it's highlighted, press the tab button and it will tab everything in for you. Now, when we run our program, choice is not defined. Okay, we get an error. So what's happening here? The while loop, we have something called choice. We're trying to compare to see if, remember, while loops take conditions too, just like if statements. If choice is not equal to 4, but the problem is, if I hover over it, it says using variable choice before assignment. It's saying choice doesn't exist. It doesn't know what choice is. Choice doesn't get a value until this line, line 12. Here's a way around it. Choice, the user has not typed in a choice by this time. I'm just going to say choice equals 0. And that's so that at least it can get into the program. And when I run it now, it goes in and it asks me. So I'm going to type in blue. It says, okay, sky's not really blue. What do you want now? I'm going to type in 1 now. And it says red cars pay higher insurance. If I type in 4, it doesn't, oh, it does exit. It does exit if I type in 4. Why does it exit? Because of line 11. Line 11 says, while choice is not equal to 4, continue to loop. So it's saying, oh, wait a minute, choice is equal to 4, I should stop looping because of line 11. All right, something else I wanted to do. When you're running this program, I'm just noticing it might be nice to see the menu every time that it loops around. I think that that's an important thing. So in that case, I'm gonna butcher up this program. I'm gonna take lines 3 to 8, highlight them, and cut them. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight lines 3 to 8, press Control X to cut, and then I'm gonna go inside of the while loop, just right inside line 7, press Control V to paste. And then I want to highlight those same lines I just pasted and press Tab. Now when we run it, it'll be a bit more user-friendly. So that's the third example of while loops. Please, 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 when we do our assignment and you have to do a menu, refer back to this. Try to remember the things that I said. Remember some key things here. I'm just going to repeat this because I feel it's so important. Try to use numbers if you can in menus because it prevents spelling mistakes. You don't want the user to have to type in a long thing like the whole word deposit or the whole word withdraw, for example, because they might make a spelling mistake. They might not use the same capitalization you do. The other thing is use a while loop if it makes sense. If it's something like, I know there's a point of sale thing. They call it a POS system. For servers, for waiters and waitresses and wait staff, so that they can type in a menu. And they're all touchpad now, but behind that is a program that probably has a while loop in it. It looks kind of like this. And could you imagine how difficult it would be for them if they're starting the job or they haven't memorized it yet and there was no prompt? It just had a question mark. So let's say there was no touchpad and it was actually a keyboard, which it used to be, and they can't type anything in. Because they don't know what 1 is, they don't know what 2 is. So that's why I have lines 7 to 12 inside of the while loop. So every time that it loops around, it shows the main menu. Okay, that's it for now. The exercises will be posted.